Or
No. Go ahead.
everybody probably knows you. My name is Jenna. I just mentioned I've lived in 7 states, so I've moved 69 times in my life. I've bought and sold a lot of real estate and have been, it's kind of like a hobby. I really love it. It's something that was a challenge for me. I am a single mom of 3 boys. And so, you know, moving around, and when I was a stay-at-home mom, real estate was kind of like my intellectual stimulation and my challenge and things like that. Every time we'd move to a new place, I would just learn the market and I loved it. So yeah, now I get to be a real realtor, and I have been licensed for about 100 days. Loving it.
Nice. Cool. Awesome. Great. We've got some on Zoom. Grant, you're at the top of my screen, so I'll have you go first, and then Kristen and Emily.
Okay, there we go. Trying to unmute. Hi, everybody. Grant Keaton. I've had my real estate license for about a year. I'm doing it part-time, still working at a W-2 job, trying to get out of that W-2 job with real estate. So I've worked in digital marketing for most of my career and excited to make a shift to something that's a little bit more aligned with my skills and what I want for my lifestyle.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm Kristen Hanson Curtis, and I have been in real estate for a long time, since the 80s. I started out in title and escrow here in Utah and then in Nevada. And then I became a realtor in 2000. And yeah, and so my husband passed away last year of cancer. And so I'm just regrouping and revving up again. And so I'm starting to do some developing down in St. George and Arizona. And yeah, just excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. And Mentally, if you are able to jump in.
Hi, can you guys see me?
We can. Yep.
You can? Okay. Sorry, I have all 4 kids waking up. I am mentally, I'm new to real estate. In fact, I have it, so I won't officially be doing it until October, but I'm just getting all the classes done. I have 4 young kids, and I guess kind of what got me into real estate is we built 2 of our own homes. We kind of played the realtor role, and it's just something I've always enjoyed. We want to get into investment properties on the side as well. So that's what brought me into it.
Great, thank you. So we've got a wonderful group kicking off for this this Ignite session, and I really want to pre-frame the value of Ignite. So here's, I'll use a sport analogy because I love sports, and Nick, I'm just going to pick on you for a moment, if that's okay. So there's a really great coach at Orem High School, okay, just down the street, a great football coach. And we also know, is anybody familiar with the name Nick Saban? Okay. Also a phenomenal coach, right? If you had to choose between the Orem High School coach and Nick Saban, who would you like to be coached by?
I mean, everyone thinks about that stuff kind of differently. My background, Nick Saban's a producer. He may eliminate that interpersonal relationship with the individual. So that would make me tend to lean more towards like Lance and Coach D down at Orem, just because the interpersonal relationship still do have great experience, but I just know they'll be able to kindle more in the long run.
Interesting. Is that an interesting answer? I didn't pay him to say that, just saying. Okay. Now, I want to get your guys' perspective. What did you think he was going to say? And some of you who don't know Nick Saban, he's won multiple national championships, just well astute, a stout coach. So what did you think his answer was going to be?
Probably Nick Saban, because he's well known.
Yeah,
I've already turned down once.
yeah.
We're not worthy.
Here's one of the things I want, the reality of this industry is that when you get into real estate, oftentimes we have this mental block that people are going to choose the agent who's been in the business the longest or who's done the most business. Okay, and that mental block is what will stop us from getting into production. And so a lot of Ignite is around helping to reshape your beliefs, reshape your mindset around getting business, but then also equipping you with the right tools and real dialogue, right? The conversations you need to have to solidify business. My first transaction in the industry was a high school acquaintance who we were friends, but we'd lost track over 7 years, 8 years. So it'd been a long time before we had connected. And I was at that time personally investing in real estate. And so that was kind of my lead opener, right? Is that I was talking to people about wealth building through real estate. And he's like, I actually want to buy an investment property. Now, I went to dinner with them, went through this whole process of just connecting, right? Not talking about real estate, just building a relationship. Come to find out his sister is a real estate agent. So what do you think my initial thoughts are in that moment? When I thought I was going into this getting the ability to secure a client.
Did you just ruin a relationship?
Am I gonna be a house
Should I
breaker,
yield
right?
to
Yeah.
my sister?
Like initial thoughts that everybody I'm sure would have is like, oh, like this is gonna be a battle. How is he gonna choose? Like, how is he gonna choose me, who've been disconnected for 7 years, over his sister, right? Now, he did end up going with me, and it did cause some issues, unfortunately. But again, that was just another testament that it is not about how long somebody's been in the space, how many homes that they've sold. That was my first transaction. He didn't know that was my first transaction. I didn't act like it was my first transaction. One of the common, and I'm gonna give you a lot of scripts, so feel free if you want to record stuff with your phone, voice memo, feel free to do that. This is also being recorded on Zoom, so you can go back and watch the recording and take those little snippets. But one of the initial pieces is to act like a top producer. One of the ways that you can do that is by leaning into the transactions that the market center overall or our brokerage is doing. We did just under 2,000 units last year. And so being able to say, hey, I have so many resources available to help support you guys through this process. We did. Okay, we, not I, we did over just under 2,000 units last year, actually the #1 brokerage in the state of Utah. And so I'm happy to help guide you. I have a lot of mentors and resources to make sure that you guys are comfortable going through this process. So it's how you say things make a big impact, not exactly what you say. So that was kind of an example of how I navigated that conversation. And for him, he cared more about, well, I do need some investment knowledge, and my sister doesn't have that. She's great at helping people buy and sell, but she doesn't know the market as an investor. Okay, so here's what I want to share with you. One of your most competitive advantages that you guys can obtain right now is getting very connected to the market, meaning knowing the numbers that drive our market. And you don't have to be an investor yourself, but you have to understand what investors look for. Okay, so don't feel like I've got to go buy a property in order to talk about investments. That's not the case. But you do have to be a student of that information, okay? And that's what we're gonna be talking about today, connecting with your market. Do you know what the most common question asked? I don't know if this is what I assume is the most commonly asked question. When you say, I'm in real estate, what do you think people usually ask?
How long have you been in the business?
It's gonna be one of the questions.
How's the market?
How's the market?
Yeah, how's the market? Yeah, that's one.
From my experience, this is the #1 question asked. How's the market? I'm jumping straight into strategy. Is that okay? I know we're gonna go through some slides and stuff like that, but I'm gonna get right into some actionable pieces that you guys can start using. What do you think is a common response to that? What do you think agents usually
Not
say?
very good. People say not very good right now.
Right now, not very good. Right? Interest rates are high. What else?
Housing prices have jumped up quite a bit. Well, they jumped up and then they kind of went down, and now people don't know what's going to happen. They're afraid prices will tank or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they're way more inflated now than they were pre-COVID, obviously, right? So there's a lot of younger people especially are priced out of housing at this point.
Yeah,
Mhm. Do you expect interest rates to come down or housing prices to come down? I keep getting asked that quite a bit.
yeah,
Of the
yeah,
future,
people
but-
asking where interest rates are headed.
Mhm.
Here's a little ninja tip. Ninja tips are like hey, this is like a high level strategy that I can deploy. And I promise it's a game changer for the interactions you have. Is one, don't answer the question directly. So when somebody asks, how's the market? Don't be the typical agent that goes into, well, it's a little weird right now. Right? Or it's crazy. In Utah, that's what you'll hear consistently. People say, the market's crazy. What does that actually mean? Okay. What I would encourage you to do is answer their question with a question. Okay. So question, pull role playing with me really quick, Andrew.
Sure.
So you asked me how the market is.
How's the market?
It's crazy. Interest rates are all over the place and prices are pretty high right now. So. How do you think that's gonna be received?
Not well.
How's the conversation end?
Like,
Better.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. All right, great. Right.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Okay,
Sure.
this is level 2.0.
Okay, so what do you think's going on with the market right now?
You know, really, Daniel, it depends. Are you more curious about investing, buying, or selling? Because all those are a little bit different.
Yes, I think selling is what I'd be most interested in.
Okay. Gotcha. Have you guys thought about making a transition at some point?
We move a lot, so we're kind of always thinking about
Gotcha. When was the last time you guys moved?
it. 6 months ago.
Okay, I'm gonna pause. So what was the difference in those two conversations?
You're able to find out their situation.
Yeah, getting information which you can use to give a better answer.
the conversation continues.
I think staying positive, regardless of what the situation is, you can look at the cup half empty or half full. And I think you want to stay on the half full side.
Shoney, what was your question you asked back again?
So I always say it depends.
Okay.
Are you more curious? And I flip my words a little bit. I usually say, are you more curious about buying, selling, or investing? I think I started with investing on that one. And this is because if you're going into a doctor's office, okay, and as soon as you sit down in that doctor's office, he said, here's some ibuprofen. Without asking you any questions around what's wrong, what's happening, right, what your symptoms are. How would you feel in that moment?
It's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah,
He doesn't care about what I'm going through, and this is probably not a good doctor.
yep, doesn't care about what I'm going through, and is this even the solution, like, is this solution relevant to me, right? So one of the ways to be a good practitioner of real estate is to actually know what that individual needs before trying to prescribe something. Okay, because my answer around the market does actually depend which three of those scenarios is more important for them in their life right now, right? Because if they're buying, I know that what the biggest pain points. So here's why I'm doing this. So buying, I'm going to show this little diagram. And to say it depends. Are you more curious about buying, selling, or investing? What is the biggest pain point for a buyer right now in this market?
Interest rates.
Interest rates. Which in other terms is called affordability. Right? So the higher the interest rates and the higher the home prices, the less affordable those homes are. Right? That's the actual problem that people have right now. I already know that. But if somebody says they're more curious in buying, I want to solve for this problem. They have very few. If I go to YouTube right now, let's actually just this out. We go to YouTube and we say real estate market. So tell me how positive these headlines are. Worse than people think. Housing market crash. That's actually a good one here. Huge changes happening. Let's see. And I actually think I have, I might have put some in here. Let's see if I did. I'm gonna fast forward it. So, yes. So here's some good examples of things that you'll see commonly on the news. Affordability worse than 2008. Housing market recession. It started the worst housing crash in 40 years. The disturbing details of 2023 housing crash. Top 10 cities where home prices will crash. So do you want to add fuel to that fire? No. Instead, look at being the person that can market solutions to the greatest problems, and you'll end up with more business than you can need. And so part of that is saying, well, what bucket are they in? If they're buying, this is a big problem. How can I solve for that? But first, let me dig in a little bit more and see, are they looking at buying soon? But buying maybe an investment property or second residence, like all those things have different scenarios. If they're selling, what is some of the biggest challenges right now?
I say everybody's selling. All the market, there's a lot of houses on the listing service for a long time. So, I mean, I have a particular person who their house has been on there for about coming up on 50 days. So from our experience, a couple of people we worked with are worried that they're not going to be able to sell their house in time to buy what they want to buy because they need to move now, but they're in a contingency on that first house.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is, a lot of us in this room, because here's the reality, I've been in the market for as an agent for 3 years, I've been an investor for almost 7 years now. And so it's funny for us to think that a home sitting for 50 days is a long time. If you talk to agents who've been in business for 5 years or more, they'll say that actually is like selling like hotcakes. The bounce market of the past was about 6 months, right? 5 to 7 years ago in our market. So if we look at our timelines right now, we actually still are selling homes very quickly. Now, the consumers, they don't feel that, right? They feel like things are moving very slow, which we totally understand. And so part of that is strategies to help them sell what I would say faster than average, right? We can't say we're going to sell it this weekend or we're going to sell it overnight like we did in this previous market, but we're going to help beat out the average time on market, right? And we have strategies to deploy that. So I know this was a little rabbit hole that we just went down, but I think this is important, is just change the type of response you give, because this is going to be the most common question you are asked. If you just adapt your responses, it depends. Are you more curious about buying, selling, or investing? And that will send you down a better path to kickstart those conversations. Okay. Any follow-up questions on that piece? Okay, cool. Let's dive in. So let's get started. Ignite. Here's the different phases of Ignite. Now I'm showing obviously the different classes or courses you're going to be going through over this month. But I also want to take this as a different perspective where I've seen, hey, Brody. Hey, Brody. Oh. Can you pop in here for a second? Oh. How many of you met Brody so far?
I don't know that guy.
Everybody. What can I do for you? What do we got going on?
I just want to get your perspective, because you obviously started in 2021.
I think so, yeah. I don't even remember. I just started. Kind of like rolled in here, friggin' pants ripped all the way around, and I was held together by a string, concrete dust all over me. Said I'm ready to sell some real estate.
Yep.
That worked.
And Brody was a great example. So he was in our coaching program right when he launched his career. And I just want to get your perspective on how, Ignite or any trainings that you've been through have impacted your career so far.
That's a great question. I'd say this is definitely foundation. So it's basic for me. is having a understanding of how the flow, how the transaction works. Just like understanding just kind of the base level of like the steps. So you know how to go into that. I feel like this is definitely the base, the foundation of where you go, and then from there you build. For me, I think it's also good. I think with perspective and rubbing shoulders with the guys that were instructing on the classes, because those guys are producing. So I think when they're producing, that's like real life case studies of them actually in the trenches with you. So when you get these deals that kind of relate to some of the circumstances and, like when they teach you about transactions they're working on, you can kind of relate and kind of bounce, perspective off of those guys. So like, I'd say Ignite gives you the foundation, basic, how to like operate and do things. It gives you ideas on how to, procure opportunity as well and strategies. And then I would say on top of that is, the people that are instructing, you get one-on-one perspective with those guys. And I think that's where, for me, I always look for the guys that are kind of, paving the path for me. And they're kind of the trailblazers here. And so I can kind of relate and connect with those guys and get perspective and kind of get, I guess, how they do it, what they do in their business specifically. Like a Brandon Peterson would be doing phone calls all day. Like, how does that work? Kind of tools from them. And like, then I go to someone else that's like 110% relationship based, like a Heather Groom. She hasn't made a phone, like a cold call and ever. Right. So it's like two different business styles, right? So you get, perspective from, multiple different perspectives, but that are high producing agents, right? So I feel like you get the tools that you need in the Ignite, and then you get the resources that kind of are tied to it. So it's kind of like it kind of works hand in hand, and that's kind of, for me, that was the most helpful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking a break from your little ice cream sandwich.
Dude, I freaking love this. They have them just over around the corner, so just tell them I say hi.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, if you haven't popped into Real Advantage yet, please do go meet Burgundy, meet Corby, Lacey. They're phenomenal. But I was hoping, I wanted to hear from Brody's perspective, because it's been a couple years since he's gone through this. The most important value you're going to gain from this is, one, some of the useful tools, like what can I deploy right now? The second piece of that, though, is that this class, we only allow our top 20% performers to be able to teach this. So they have to be making at minimum 6 figures. Now, why do you think we want you to learn from multi-6-figure earners versus somebody who's just getting started in the business?
They've been through the ringer.
They have that experience, yeah.
Yeah. They're teaching from today's results. Like today's market requires different strategies than 2 years ago. And so what I would encourage is use this as a way to fast track your success. The individuals that you'll see, Hunter Chinnicky, Jake Bowers, a lot of these agents that have gone through Ignite and really taken this, because you can go through as many times as you'd like. What I've found is there's kind of a dabbler where it's like, it'd be cool to go learn about real estate, but they don't go implement, and they only, kind of pick and choose the class topics that seem appealing or sexy, right? And then you'll have somebody who's committed, and they're going to be, I'm going to graduate Ignite, and you go to every session. And if I miss one, I'm going to make it up, go and watch the recordings of it, and just be a sponge in this time. And then I find people who really seek mastery, and those are the individuals who commit to going through Ignite once per quarter in your first year. That's what I would highly encourage. That was the game changer for me. I did 14 units my first year, and I did 36 units my second year. And it was all because of me going back through Ignite. Even though, again, once you've heard something twice, you're like, I know it. I promise you don't, especially because you're at different points in your career. So just an encouragement to make sure that you go to all these sessions. You've got Carl Spencer teaching lead generation on Friday. And he is a master when it comes to different forms of lead generation. So that's going to be a great class. And Carl is a rock star. So highly encourage going to that. So today's agenda, we're going to go through knowing your market, how to build your expertise, utilizing different resources, and then we'll dive into some ahas, your big takeaways. So make sure that you're writing those down as we go. So Gary Keller said, here's the truth. If it has been done in another market, it can be done in your market. Once it has been done, no matter where, it's just a matter of finding out how that can be possible in your world. So there will be 40,000 homes sold in the state of Utah this year. My question is, does anybody have a goal of selling 42,000 homes? Okay. So that means if your goal is not above that, you have plenty of opportunity. There's enough to go around to support whatever kind of goal you have. There are agents in this office that run teams that will do 300 units this year. So if your goal is to do 5, 10, 15, 25 homes, 100% doable. We have solo agents that will do 40 to 50 units as a solo agent. So anything that you want to set your mind on as far as attainment can be possible. You just have to ask the question of how is it done by those individuals and follow that blueprint. So know your market. Knowing and connecting with your market really is about your research and your preparation. And there's 3 types of real estate markets. Okay. So there's a buyer's market, there's a balanced market, and there's a seller's market. Now, the buyer's market is when you have more than 7 months of inventory. Okay. We're hanging around 2 months right now. A balanced market is when you have 5 to 7 months of inventory, and a seller's market, when the sellers have control, is when you have less than 5 months of inventory. Now, what kind of market are we in today? Selling market, right? We are actually moving towards the balanced market. We're not quite there yet. And given the situations as well, what I'll say is for each individual seller, that scenario can change. Meaning if a home has sat on the market for more than the average days of market, it's been on the market for 70 days, and the average is, let's say, 45. Who do you think has control typically in those situations? Buyer has a little bit more wiggle room, right? And so part of that's just understanding, having conversations, especially with clients. With a buyer, some of them right now will say, do you think that we can get closing costs paid for, and can we do this and this? And I say, yeah, it's possible. We're going to do our best to negotiate with you. If the home came on the market yesterday and it's priced right, just know there could be competition. And it may be less likely for us to be able to negotiate all the bells and whistles. If the home has been on the market and we want to look for homes that have been on the market for 60 to 75 days, we can dial in on that and we have more negotiation space. Okay. And then same thing with sellers, is helping them to change their perception of, hey, our home has now hit this timeline, this critical time where buyers may have a little bit more control in this situation if the home sits in the market. Going back to knowing your market, how do you currently research real estate? And I would love honesty here. So if you're like, I don't know how right now, totally fine. Okay, this is the class to be okay with that.
I come into the office and I'm here as much as possible and to try to get access to all the top agents. And so I introduce myself to them and then I want to pick their brain. And a lot of time they will take time, sometimes an hour or two, and just talk to me and teach me stuff. And I take notes. That's kind of how I learn.
Okay.
And then, building relationships with them, then if they, like for instance, Sherry Booth, the other day, she just sent me a podcast. She's like, hey, you should listen to this podcast. And it's Brian Buffini. And I didn't know about that podcast, but it's about, a caterpillar who does all this work and then goes into a chrysalis and is like really, really tough and then comes out as a butterfly. And she's like, this is you, Jenna. I'm like, so, it's just, there's so many people who, if you put yourself out there, they will mentor you.
Yeah.
And I like to learn through people.
Right. So office, other agents, mentorship is a great one. Where would you go if you were to search online?
Use Zoom.
I guess classic, I would resort to Realtor and Zillow.
Okay.
As far as just kind of seeing what's on the market, what's available,
Yeah.
and I've been able to just kind of take in a lot of information on that.
MLS, Griffin Association.
I've been Utah Real Estate. That's what I've been told is the most up to date MLS. Like in terms of Zillow has a couple of days lag, Realtor has a couple of days lag.
Yeah.
So usually go on Utah Real Estate, speak to my team about different things, and also with me being on the team, kind of case studies and their actual contracts that they have done, the problems that have arisen, different addendums and stuff that's had to be done, and process of getting surveyors and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So here's the The reality is that there's so many different places to find data. Like you can go onto YouTube and type in real estate market, you can go into Google, like there's so many different places. What I want to actually push you towards is just saying, well, how do we filter information? How do we find the best information? And one of the cool things with KW is we try to make that as easy as possible for you all. So I'm going to go through a few different places to search for this. Number one, how many of you read our Accelerator, Agent Accelerator magazine? Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's the first place I'm going to recommend. If you go to throughout the office, you'll see these little QR codes, and it will direct you to our. Let me pull it up.
Also Johnny's market updates and Dean's.
Yeah, I'm gonna point out both of those. Thank you. So this is where you will be taken to if you scan any of the QR codes, like in Hunter's office, the front desk has it as well. It will take you to this hot links, and I would highly encourage you to just save this to your phone, because this should be your one-stop shop for all resources of the brokerage. But one of them specifically is if you go down just slightly, you'll find the Agent Accelerator magazine. And this magazine will take you to kind of a bookshelf where you'll find each previous edition. So you have May, June, and July are already launched, and August is coming soon. And when you click on any of these magazines, you'll find some really good articles to read around building your business. And these range from lead generation to creating a team, any of those kind of dynamics that you're focused on. But there's also wealth building principles and tips in here. So all of this stuff is clickable. So if you say, I want to learn, let's say that 9 hurdles to overcome when helping a buyer, and you can get some valid tips to use. But one of the specific pages in here is we actually provide you with market updates. These templates, you can actually just download. They're already ready to go. We've already put the relevant data in there from the MLS, and you can literally just post it to social media right away. If you want to add your headshot on there. So that's a nice thing where if nothing more, start posting about the market so that people can recognize you as a real estate professional and what we say, the real estate economist of choice. Okay, we want them to recognize you as a real estate economist so that anything when it comes to the market, they want you to be their trusted advisor around that. Okay, so these are good to go for you. You can add your headshot, phone number, email, stuff like that on the marketing piece, but the base level of the marketing is done for you. But on here, you'll see we actually say these are what we recommend you use to find relevant and accurate, the most accurate data around the real estate market. So you can actually click on any of these links and it will take you to a resource around real estate market statistics. And you can use this magazine as your kind of go-to to find all the things necessary around studying the market. Okay.
Is this an app, Shoney?
Nope.
No, it's just, okay, one second.
Nope, just a website. Yep. So scan those around office. I can point you towards one when we wrap up this session if needed. Those are super helpful. The other thing is what Jenna mentioned is so you want to write this down, Utah or kwutah.com. Okay, super simple, kwutah.com. And you will see this little resource button in the top right-hand corner. And if you click on that, the big button in the middle says Agent Resources. Okay. This will be the best data packet you will ever find from what I've seen so far in my years in the industry. And it's really cool that that our region puts this together for us every quarter. So right here, there's quarterly market reports, and you can see it goes all the way back to 2019. They do it every quarter. It is such an intense packet that they only do it once per quarter. So they will do the data for the whole quarter. And you can go ahead and download this, and then you can use this, go through it and say, these are the 5 to 7 slides that I want to communicate to my database and to people I have conversations with, because these are the things that drive the market. And it's actually hard to see real shifts in the market. If you're looking at a month, you kind of do need a quarter to be able to say, like, how are things really being impacted? But this market report is actually about 150 to 160 slides of data, 172, okay? Everything around buyer sentiment, seller sentiment, investment properties, luxury, the US data, so not just Utah. This does bring in on a national scale, the Utah economy.
So
all
is
the
this just a
different
census of
industries.
the entire state? Or is it particular to the counties as well?
So this one, they do both. They do a combination. So they'll tell you the macro scale of like what's the whole state happening, and then they'll go into different counties.
Okay.
So let me find one slide that will show, like, and some of this stuff is really good to go over with clients. Like this one is in my my buyer's packet, helping them understand the affordability in housing, and it's not going to go down. Like,
That's questions I keep getting asked as far as what county to go to, like once they.
yeah, so let me find one that shows on a county basis. So like, we get into
The KW Westfield, when it had the markets for Salt Lake County and Utah County, does it have counties outside of Salt Lake and Utah, or is it just primarily those two?
no, we do the other counties, and that's why I'm trying to find one that, let's see.
And then even a step further with the cities, and one buyer that's interested, and she's really trying to determine within the state as a whole, and then realizing the different city taxes that are associated that are actually making an impact in her decision making.
Yeah, for sure. And so this is how we break it down. So you'll see this throughout the entire slide. What we'll break down, so you can see this is Cache County, Davis County, Salt Lake, Summit, Tooele, Utah County, Washington, Weber. So we go through the largest counties in the state. And so you have a wide range of data to be able to pull from people. These are the most commonly served areas. And so you'll find a bunch of different, and this one's specifically to fair market rents. So this is on the investment side. Average rents, this one's, as you can see, is specific to Salt Lake City. They have a Utah County one in here as well. These are broken down cost burdens of Utah's 6 largest counties. So it's a pretty wide range of data that they pull in for you.
That's great.
And it's nice that if you go to the MLS, one of the challenges is that most of the stuff you're gonna look at is in a spreadsheet numbers format. When you translate it into graphs, it makes it a little bit easier to digest. And then also on the MLS, you're usually gonna be looking at like timetables, and maybe it's like a year or this quarter, this month. But on here, you'll find some of our data points that are like 10, 15 years of data that we put in here. So for example, this one, how far does that go back? This one's 1990. Annual home sales, or this is on the US scale, since 1990. Utah annual home sales since 2003. So that's the stuff that's hard to pull in the MLS, unless you're spending hours of data analysis, right? So we throw it on a graph to make it easy for you to be able to show. So yeah, we'll go through a few of these slides during this point, but that's my 2 recommendations, is to use our hot links, go to our magazine, and there you'll find the most accurate sources of real estate data. But then if you want a real deep dive and you want some cool stuff, you can just say, I want to copy this one slide and paste it in my presentation to have a conversation with the client during a buyer or listing consultation. Then the market updates every quarter. You can go back and use that data. Okay.
The slide I liked from that I screenshotted was the mortgage rates back, starting in 1972 until now. And it's like super impressive because it was so high. And now it's like, hello, it's not that bad. Be at 6, 7, 8%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, talking to my parents back in the 80s.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, oh goodness.
I would also encourage you to go watch, every time that we release these slides, Johnny Christensen, who's the regional director. He also is one of the owners of the Red Sign team. So they actually are one of the largest teams in the state. They do close to 300 units every year. So they know what they're doing. He actually does a full synopsis on every slide. So he'll break down those 172 slides and explains it to you. He does this for our agents. And the cool thing is you can just go through, listen to him and say, that's how I can explain this to clients. Because a lot of, he got his, he did go through his master's in real estate degree at the U, and has a lot of knowledge behind the data. So he explains it to you in a way that's digestible that you can then just go repeat. Okay, so that makes it really easy. So I highly encourage you going through and watching this. It's an hour and a half long, but he'll break down all the data and you can just go watch that on repeat to help educate yourself around the data in the market. Okay. Cool. Any questions there?
No, that's good info.
Okay. Awesome. And then if you are doing it in the MLS, you can go to, there's a few different types of reports that they have in there. The market analysis, they have the absorption report. The absorption report is essentially saying, if we stopped putting any more homes on the market, we stopped putting inventory on the shelf, how soon would we sell out of everything that's on the shelf? Okay. So why that's important is it's essentially a different way to look at, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? And looking at days of inventory that we have on market. So the absorption report, you've got the sales per month, which is a nice glance at how many closings we're having month over month. And then you've got the daily snapshot report. They actually just added within the past couple of months as well. You've got this rapid stats built in to the MLS. And so if you go to rapid stats, they actually now have the ability to provide some pretty good graphs as well. So in the past, you're looking at just numbers. Let me just pull up an example, show you what that looks like. And just note on the MLS, whenever you log in, it actually will show you a quick snapshot. You can just put your timeline in. It's always the last 30 days initially, but you can adjust this. And then you can say, you know what, I want to see, where is it? County. I want to see a specific county of data. And you can get a quick glance here. So that's really fast to find the average list price, average sold, and number of sales, and then average days on market. So that's the easiest way if you just need to know very quickly. And then with these reports, again, if I did like a daily snapshot, this is typically the information you're going to get. Whereas with rapid stats, you have far more data and different resources you can pull, and you can also download these. If you're going to put them in an email, things like that, you can download these reports. So this is good data to use as well. And you can structure it to say, this is exactly what I'm looking for, pull in different years and things like that. Okay. Skip through that one. So this one's interesting as well. I'm going to pull up two resources for you. So actually, let's do it on this page. Okay. So one of the cool things that we've done is try to make it as simple as possible for you to be tied into as many options and resources as possible. So you want to have a trusted advisor that can help you get in touch with the most up-to-date interest rates and the strategies to help reduce an interest rate per client. Okay, because this impacts affordability a lot. If we just go to a mortgage comparison calculator online, let's look at this. Did anybody catch what the average sales price was? Utah County?
I think it was like 540 something.
Yeah. And I think that's a little high, honestly. I think it's, if you look at the actual average, it's probably closer to like 515 mark. But let's just use that as an example though. Somebody's buying a 540 home and we're not going to change anything except for the interest rate. Okay. Years they're going to buy is going to be the same. And I will do this with clients as well. I'll show them how I'm very intentional about helping them to lower the interest rate as much as possible, because it impacts them greatly. So let's just say that this home's 540. And they've got a 3%, a 5%. It'd be 5.5 and 7.5 interest rate. Okay,
Wait, you put 55?
That'd be terrible.
thank you.
I just look out the car at that point.
Yeah, we're gonna have some issues at that length. So let's look at the difference, okay? This is how much total interest they're gonna pay over 30 years. And then this is the difference in the monthly payment. So you can see that the same purchase price could be a $1,500 swing. Or between a 5.5 interest rate and a 7.5, it's a $700 swing. Yet over time, that interest adds up between, would you rather pay 279,000 in interest or 819,000 in interest? Right. So the big key of this is saying, well, what options do I have? Well, let's call them mortgage hacks. Okay, what are the mortgage hacks to get an interest rate lower than what the market is advertising? So clients' monthly cost is lower and their overall cost of the home is lower. Okay, that will set you apart from what most agents are able to do right now. So the way to find that is, again, I'm going to refer everything back to this hot links page, because everything that we've created is on this one-stop shop for you. So you'll find this KW Westfield HQ, which is resources at a glance. Because I know, as you see, I've thrown out already like 4 or 5 different resources, and it's like, okay, how do I find all of these things again? Just go to this one page, and you might have to go, read through the titles, but you'll find everything that I've shared with you so far today. So if you go on here, one of the links and that you're going to look at is called the playbook resources. Okay. So if you're right underneath templates is playbook resources. Now you'll be brought to this page where there are a ton of different playbooks we've created, which is about 20 to 35 pages of step-by-step instructions on different things. For example, if you're going to do an open house, if you want to become a master of open houses, go read that book. Because we've just had a top producer document their process and say, this is exactly what I do. This is how my Facebook post looks. This is how I market for it. This is where I put my signs. Everything is documented on that. 30 pages of just like step by step. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Okay. But one of the playbooks is the mortgage hacks playbook. So the mortgage hacks playbook is again about 30 pages long, going through 8 different ways that you can help a buyer with their greatest challenge of affordability in today's market. So it says you want to understand these different mortgage products. And if you actually did study all 8 of these, you actually would probably know more than some lenders that are out there. And the cool thing is we actually break every single one down to help you understand it, but also help you be able to explain it to a client on this book. So for example, buy downs obviously is a very common one right now. So if I go down here, it will say, well, how does a buy down work? What is a buy down process? What's the value to a client? And then it shows how it breaks down in the actual payment. Okay. And so this makes it super simple to go through and do your own study on these different mortgage hacks that you can present to clients. Okay. So the 2 recommendations going back to this slide is interest rates. 1, have a trusted advisor. If you have not met Cody Tyson with Intralend, his office is directly behind the front desk. So if you could just go back, take a right, you'll see Cody Tyson on the left. Intralend is what we call, he's our in-house finance manager. So the cool thing with him is he's actually a mortgage broker shopping different lending options for the best rate for your clients. So when you connect a client with him, he's actually trying to find the best rate through multiple different channels. Okay. Whereas if we go to a solo, like let's say it's a Security National or something, they can only give you what their rates are. Right. So he's going to do what's best for your client to try and find the lowest and cheapest cost for them to get into a home. Okay. So be connected with him. And sometimes he does say, hey, I'm gonna connect you now with First Colony, or I'm gonna now connect you with, Security National, whoever it is that he can get the best rates through, he's gonna help you tap into that. Okay, so just lean on him, use him as leverage. He's a great partner for our K-3 agents. So have your partner, but then also just know the mortgage hacks that are out there. Economic factors that play an important role in the market. These are things that are also housed within the market update. So I'm going to give you some examples that we've pulled from those slides. For example, these are when I'm in a presentation with them, or even maybe we're going deeper after that question of how's the market? Say it depends. You're interested in buying, selling, or investing, right? Naturally, at some point, I do have to give them some actual data that makes sense, right? To help establish myself as a real estate professional and a market expert. So some of the things that I'll go through, especially if they say, well, I'm an investor, or I'm thinking about investing. Great. So most people will think about two things when it comes to Utah: is prices are high and the cash flow isn't great. Okay. Now, for the standard, the starting investor, that might discourage them. But if you look at the advanced investor, there's a lot of people investing money in Utah right now. Right. And so if we go to this side specifically, it highlights 5 to 7 different key points of why people believe in the economy of Utah and why it's such a great investment state. So for example, we are the 7th lowest unemployment rate. And actually, I think that's dropped. I think we're probably two or three now in the country. 4th highest median household income. Is that good when you have renters? Yes. Right. 2nd lowest poverty rate. Is that good for investments? Yes. Largest household size. Okay, I know Utah has a problem with that. Right? No, but one of those things is if you look at this, everything is connected. So the largest household size, here's something that's interesting. We really look at the bottom or the baseline of our market, where we're headed. So we about a year ago stepped into the prime home buying age for millennials. Just started. So a lot of millennials are actually buyers right now and are going to be for the next 7 to 10 years. Okay. Now this is like one of my made up stats. I don't know this. I'm just like assuming. I believe that we probably have a higher per capita amount of millennials in Utah compared to other states, just because some families do have 5 or 6 kids. So they have a group of kids around that age. And so it's not just 1 or 2 kids that are needing to buy a house when they get married. It's 4, 5, 6 kids back to back that need to buy houses, right? So I think we're going to have more demand of buyer demand in the market than other states may have, just because we are, again, that 2nd lowest, or the still the largest household size. That impacts our buyer demand pool, what does the buyer demand pool impact on home prices? That make it go up or down? Up, right? More demand makes it go up. So when talking to an investor, I say this is a great horizon for the next 7 to 10 years, right? As our home values go. Still the youngest median age as well. That's again one of those components when it comes to the millennials, and just overall age group. More Utahns work, so 3rd highest labor force participation rate. So when you look at unemployment, there's actually probably 5% of people that just shouldn't be employed anyways, right? And so what they're saying is that also with Utah, we have a lot of participation. So the people that can work and are able to, they do tend to go work. And then eighth most favorable on the annual employment growth. So we actually have a lot of jobs being added consistently. One that's not on here that I also highlight is that we're actually actually I think it is on the next slide maybe. It's not this one specifically, but we are actually one of the most diverse economies in the country, which is really cool. So we're not just heavy in industrial, we're not heavy in technology. Like there's actually a well-rounded support in our economy of where our revenue comes from. And that actually puts us in somewhat of a bubble to where we're safeguarded on an economic downturn a little bit more than other states are. So that's also where I would want my real estate assets, right? Is in a state that has a really strong economy. So all those pieces are good to point out for investors.
Can we get a copy? Is this available? I noticed there in your slides.
Yeah, we'll send these out, no problem, yeah. And then all of these, just so you know, I'm just taking screenshots from the actual market update.
Okay.
So I just tried to shorten that 170 pages into like 5 slides for you guys to make it easy. So everything I'm sharing here, all these screenshots are from that report. But definitely we'll send these out as well. Yeah. This is the yearly unemployment rate in Utah specifically. You can see that's been trending down. Obviously, we had a spike in 2020, but every state did. But very quickly, we got back into work as soon as people could. So Utah's done very well with having strong employment. Real GDP growth is our gross domestic products. So this is showing how much money is flowing through the state of Utah. Now, what trend are we seeing with this slide? Up or down? Up consistently, right? And this is since 1997. And so this is really nice when, again, talking to investors or just the standard home buyer, that it's a great asset to invest in is real estate, even if it's a primary residence. Because this GDP affects all the money that's flowing through our state, and that also goes into real estate. And then this is just other important factors, especially when you're helping a buyer or an investor. The two things that the number one thing with real estate, what is the most important key for real estate? Location, and location. Okay. And so part of this is also where you can do research. For buyers and for investors. I'll give you an example. In 2019, I bought a condo in Lehigh, and I'll pull up a map to help illustrate this. So has anybody driven on 2100 North the last couple of months?
Yep.
So in 2019, I bought 2 investment properties. I bought one on Traverse Mountain, so right over by the Harmons here. And then I bought another condo over here, which is, let's find my unit is in this building here. Now you can see dirt here, and you can see this obviously now has a building structure. So maybe you know what this is.
School.
It's the Children's Hospital that's going in. Now, I was doing the research on that area back in 2018, 2019, and they, on their county city council meetings, they talk about, hey, we're proposing that we bring a children's hospital to Lehigh. And this is where we're proposing that children's hospital be built. Now, obviously, people can go to city council meetings. Not a lot of people do. You also have a record of all those city council meetings you can go read through in areas. So you can literally just type in Lehigh City Council meetings, and they'll show an archive of all their past meetings, or Orem, or whatever city you're looking into. And so for me, I said, well, man, the children's hospital goes in, how would that impact real estate? Would it be a positive impact or a negative impact?
Positive.
Very positive, because if they have a hospital there, what else might they have to provide around it? Probably some food, probably some other services, right? Like people need to go to eat, right, if they're at the hospital. And if you actually drive down that road now, this doesn't show it. McDonald's is built right here. So this is probably in the last 6 months that they threw this up. Now that condo has appreciated by roughly $140,000, $150,000 in that timeline. If I would have bought the same condo in Orem in an area that's already developed, it probably wouldn't have had that high of a swing in appreciation, right? So now I'm talking from an investor's perspective, right? So buyers who are buying for their primary residence, the focus might be a little bit different, but it's the same concept. How many of them want to know what school district they're going to be in or what amenities are around their home? So if you just do that due diligence as an agent beforehand and say, hey, you guys tell me the cities that are important to you as you're doing your home search, and they say, we're open to Orem, Lehigh, these 4 cities. I would go do due diligence on those cities and see what things you can bring into the conversation for the next time that you meet. And say, or when you're driving to show homes, hey, just down the street, this is what's happening, right? This is what's being built, or this is what's changing. It's gonna set you apart from 90% of the agents that are out there, okay? Just doing that extra due diligence, okay? So some of these pieces, obviously are there nearby shops, restaurants, very simple stuff, right? You can do a quick Google search and just say, what's in this area? Because then you can say, hey, yeah, the Harmons is actually just 7 minutes away from here. So you guys are gonna love being able to have that convenience, right? Nearby health facilities is an important piece, nearby attractions. And I would also, again, include specifically in Utah, schools and school districts are very important. If they're a family, they do think about that quite heavily. So making sure that you're studying that part as well. Okay. All right. I just spit a lot at you guys, so I just want to pause and just go do a round table. We'll have just for 30 seconds to a minute, look at your notes and highlight the thing that stands out to you most. What was the biggest aha or takeaway that you would want to go implement? And we'll just do a round table and have everybody share one thing that they want to implement.
I have too many.
All right, let's start with those on Zoom first. Kristen, do you wanna?
Sure. Yeah. So
Keep it-
mine was all the amazing resources to post on social media, just to kind of get it out there, you know, what that I'm back in real estate and doing all those things, I think is just a great place to start.
Awesome. Yeah, staying top of mind. That's great. Thank you. Becca or Mentally, are you able to chime in?
I was just gonna say, this is Becca. I was gonna say, I like the idea of just attending Ignite over and over again until you feel like you've mastered it.
Mhm. Being a lifelong learner, it's great. Okay, we'll go to those in the room and then Mentally, if you would like to chime in, feel free. Nick.
I'm big on the quarterly market that you had brought up. I'm a big numbers guy. There's a lot of uncertainties in people's lives. And especially when you start getting into the home buying, home selling and all that stuff. But if you hit them with numbers and all that good stuff and the resources you have, I mean, you're gonna be more likely to capture that sale or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So just having that resource there, I knew about it, but I didn't know where it was. So.
Cool. Great.
I think that bringing value to your clients is most important. So just knowing about all the different resources that we have. I've been introduced to the different resources, but now understanding, these new resources that have come out and, the kwutah.com and then what is the specific one that you said we should always go back to for everything? Hot links, yeah, hot links.
Yeah.
So just, the hot links, I think I really want to explore that and just gain as much knowledge as I can from that so that I can be on top of things and provide information that's valuable to my clients.
Right.
I'm pretty much an undercover nerd, maybe not so undercover, I don't know, but yeah, I'm about the quarterly reports because that's how I feel would set me apart from another agent. And really, what are the raw numbers, what makes sense, and just give them that information so that they can, make the most informed decision what's
Yeah.
right for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for me is
Awesome.
find the value.
For me, it was just the reminder right up front to focus on questions when talking to people, finding out what their needs are, what their concerns, so supporting that.
Cool. Great. All right, Melanie.
Did you say mentally?
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't know if I heard you right. I was just gonna say all of the tools we have, the market report. You also said that we have the guy who looks at interest rates to get us the best rate. All of that type of information is important for us as well as our clients. So
great. Thank you all for sharing. We're gonna speed through the next 10 minutes of content, but I definitely will send these slides out. This part is getting into a little bit more strategy of, well, once you have some of that data, what do you do with it, right? And there really are only, and you'll learn this in a different Ignite session, there are only 5 things that an agent should do. There's probably 100 things they choose to do that are not effective. And so, one of the biggest things is you have to start tracking how many appointments am I going on each week. Like that is the #1 lead measure that leads to the output that you want in your business. So if you're tracking anything else and you're not tracking appointments, I would reshift things, okay? And then the question is, well, if I'm not having any appointments, there's a good starting place of what, how am I actually generating them? What lead measures or lead sources am I focused on, and are they producing the results that I want? And again, Carl Spencer is going to be jamming on lead generation specifically on Friday. I know he's bringing breakfast, so he's going to one-up me. So plan on coming to a great session. He's a phenomenal teacher, so and top producer. He makes multiple 6 figures in this industry, and he's just a great agent. Learn the market. We talked about that part. The market update slides or snapshots we do provide for you. So we create these each month. Just go to our magazine, hit the download button, and then it'll say, do you want to customize anything? You want to put your headshot on there, your phone number, and then throw it on Facebook, throw it on Instagram. If you just do that consistently, it will spark conversations. And you'll see people who will like it on Facebook or Instagram, and then you can engage with them and just say, hey, how's life? What have you been up to? It doesn't have to be a real estate conversation, but at least they interacted with your post. And now you can have a conversation with them, right? Then if it evolves into real estate, great, but it doesn't have to. It's just being top of mind. Okay. This is actually one of my favorite slides from the market update, is that it just puts everything in one like big snapshot as far as the most important indicators of our real estate market. So this is what we call the LORE, LORE. It stands for the language of real estate. This is the language of real estate. Okay. So these different pieces, these key indicators, new listings, pending sales, closed sales, days on market, median sales price, percentage of original list price, housing affordability, homes for sale, and months of supply. These are the things that are most commonly talked about when you go into deeper conversations with clients. Now, you don't have to go through all this. I will pull this in my presentations with the client and say, hey, I know we talked about like, where's the market at right now, especially if it's a buyer or seller and I'm helping them to make a decision. I'll say, I just want to point out a few pieces that are super important right now. So for a seller, I'm going to lean on this percentage of original list price. Do any of you know what that is?
What they actually sell the house for compared to what they wanted.
Exactly. So they might have slapped a $700,000 price tag on that home, and then it only sold for $680,000, right? Well, this is taking the general market and saying that in Q4 of 2022, homes were selling for 103% of what their asking price was. So they're getting 3% more than what they asked for, which was a seller's market, right? You can see the shift that has taken place. And now if we look at year to date for 2022, this is last year, 101.8, because the first half of the year was still a really healthy market of 2022. We actually still had a lot of still 3.5%, 4% interest rates. You can see how that changed in 2023. Homes are selling for almost 4% less than what they asked for. Okay, so how does that impact the pricing decision for a seller? If I'm trying to help them find a price that makes sense, this data matters. If you just tell them, hey, we don't want to overprice it because of X, Y, Z, that's great. But if you can go a step further and show the actual data and say, I just want to let you know, homes that price for where they should sell at, even if it's priced right now, they're selling for 4% less because they sit on the market. You have to do a price reduction. People, automatically assume if the home's been on the market for this long, I can negotiate, and all this stuff happens. So I would encourage you guys to price slightly below market right now. And then if it's a good deal, you're gonna have a bidding war. You're still gonna have multiple offers. We still have that happening, but it's when homes are priced right. Okay. Another snapshot on here. So another good one is just obviously the median sales price is always an important topic. And just helping people to know, again, the changes year over year and how that's impacted. So like prices have dropped, and that's because of affordability. So when interest rates are high, that directly impacts our ability to sell at a certain price.
Speaking of affordability, how are you to interpret that affordability line right there, the 79, 77? What are those numbers?
This one, so the affordability line is, from my understanding, this one is actually based on a scale of 100. So 100 is if you actually are above 100, it's the most affordable.
Okay.
So anything below 100 is actually not great, which is saying that for our local median income, so how much people make, it's actually not sufficient for them to go buy at today's current interest rates and median purchase price. So this has dropped year over year. And actually, if you looked at like this timeline, you can see it was at almost 80%, which is still fairly healthy in the state of Utah because of interest rates. So interest rates is what made it more affordable. So you'll typically see that trend line of if either interest rates are going up or your median sales price is going up, affordability will lower. Great question. So yeah, this is a snapshot that I like. It's on the very front of that market update report every time they do it. So this is the first page in there that shows a glance of everything. This is another important one is you should know what the news is saying about the real estate market and keep it into context. So again, I flashed some of these at you guys as far as do other people talk about the market and how do you think that makes clients feel? Very uneasy and very fearful of what's happening right now. And so what we should do is focus on solutions. So here's some examples of that. So this was at the time that I screenshotted this. This was, within 23 hours, he had 50,000 views on this by saying 3% mortgages are back. Here's how to get one. Is he marketing a problem or a solution? Solution. That's what people care about right now. So if you market solutions to the common problems that buyers and sellers or investors are facing right now, you're going to get a ton of inbound people reaching out to you. Here's another example. Same thing, 3 interest rates are back. Assumable mortgages explained. And we still have that today. It's going in and assuming somebody's rate that they already have, right? So they're going back to that mortgage hacks playbook. That's where it's important to go study those. Because then you can market those options. So yes, these we kind of went through these already, but these are the mortgage hacks that clients need to be aware of. Home buyers assistance program. So the Utah County loan program that just came out. That's a very important one where they can get up to $20,000 towards their purchase of their home.
That's only for Utah County?
I'm sorry, Utah. They do. It is statewide, and so you can tap into it in different locations. There's another one where it is the rural housing loan that is specific to different locations. And so it does, like, for example, down south Utah County, you can still get it. I think they stopped doing it in Saratoga, but Eagle Mountain, some of those areas where just because it's more rural, they will actually provide different housing assistance for first-time home buyers. So all those things, just being equipped and having the data is super valuable. Okay. And then we're not going to go into Japan, but any questions as we wrap up this session or last pieces that you guys would like to share as ahas? You can throw anything out that we talked about.
What is your opinion on building a brand?
What I'll say is that a lot of agents have focused on that, and this is just my personal perspective, is that it's actually more like, that's great in a hot market like we had 2 years ago, where everything's selling like hotcakes and there's just a ton of business happening. In this market, I don't think that's a strategy that's really effective. I think it's marketing solutions is a better way to go. You're still building a brand essentially, but it's a different way, because most people are marketing themselves when we talk about building a brand. So if you go and look at Instagram and you just type in Utah real estate agent and you click the hashtag, you'll see a bunch of agents who've posted and they've used the hashtag, and you'll see it's a picture of them, right? And like touring this house today. Well, that's great, but that doesn't fix the problem that I'm going through of affordability, right? And so that's what I would say is like, if you lean into marketing solutions, you're already going to set yourself apart, and it's still going to build a brand. It's just in a different way. It's not going to be focused on you. It's going to be more of the service that you provide, which is, being a problem solver for clients. I think he agrees. Second that.
I think that was my main question. That's kind of what I'm focusing on, but I feel like me brand wise a little slightly different, because I feel like it kind of goes into what Carl's going to talk about Friday at building SOI.
Yeah.
And the expertise or the fields that I've been in, the connections that I have, I feel like if I build a brand now and get it transitioned, the SOI that I'll have will be tens of thousands of people, which will funnel in deals. And at that point, once I build that brand and have that SOI length, then I could focus strongly on marketing those solutions.
Yeah.
Because if I understand the solutions, but I have the SOI, I can do it case to case. But if I'm just building a brand off marketing solutions, then I'm just kind of just like outreaching.
Yeah, and so let me speak that a little bit further. When I say market solutions, it does not mean that your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed should just all be real estate and solutions, right? So like, you're still building a brand in the sense that like, you still have to post your day-to-day life. Like, people still want to connect with a person, not just like a service, right? And so you still have to have a combination. We call it like the 75-25% kind of rule, where it's like 25% of your stuff is business related. 75% is like you, hobbies, things that you're passionate about. And within that, you're sprinkling in the real estate data and solutions. And so part of it is, if you're going to use the online strategy, you definitely want to have a good balance and not just be, only business. Because then people, when you reach out to them, what do they assume you're reaching out for?
Just get money, get deals.
Business, yeah. One of the cool strategies that I highly recommend is most people, when they, if you're building your sphere, do not think of that as like, oh, it's everybody who's a current friend or family member. Initially, we want to look at who am I connected to on Facebook, where like maybe we were acquaintances back in high school. My second transaction was a person from high school who we were not actually friends. We had similar friends groups, but I just reached out to him on Facebook and say, hey man, it was 10 years by that time. I said, hey, it's been a decade. We'd love to jump on a call and just reconnect, see where life's taking you. Very simple. And I've sent that message to a ton of people who I've been disconnected from. And when we jumped on the call, you'll learn this from during Ignite, but before, stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dream. So it's just a conversation framework. It's the best script to use because it doesn't seem scripted. And so when I jumped on the call with him, I was like, man, Scott, like, it's been forever. And obviously I did a little Facebook stalking before we jumped on the call. But like, man, you have 2 kids now? Like, tell me what life has been like. So that's family, right? So like, tell me what, about your family. Where did you meet your wife? How long you guys been married? That kind of stuff. Depending on how long it's been since we connected. If I just connect with somebody like 4 months ago, I'm not going to go down that whole synopsis. But in his case, the next question I asked him was like, well, what are you doing for work now? He's like, oh, I'm in tech. I live in Lehigh and I'm with this software company. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And guess what he asked me? What do you do? And that's the greatest lead into talking about real estate, because they don't feel like you called about it, because they're the ones that asked you what you do for work. Right. So, I'm in real estate. I love it. I've been investing for the past couple of years, and I help clients who want to build, their portfolio. And he's like, I'm actually looking for an investment property. Within 30 days, we had him under contract on an investment property. And I hadn't talked to him for 10 years. And so I know this is a little side note of it, but like if you go back to, my social media, I also don't post consistently. But my stuff is not like very real estate focused. I'll post real estate every now and then. But I'm usually just posting like if I go to an event, I like personal development, traveling, those kind of things. So I'll post that more consistently. And then I'll post about real estate things sprinkled in as well.
So what is the R again?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Family, occupation, recreation. So what do you guys do for fun? Or what's your plans this summer? Do you guys have any travels coming up in December for the holidays? So just recreation and then dream. Like most people do not get asked about their goals. So if you say, are there any big goals that you're chasing right now? I'd love to support any way I can. I have a great network and relationships. So if I can connect you with somebody that can be supportive of your goals, I'd love to do so. Like something simple, right? And you will find that probably one or two, maybe you'll rarely find people who their friends have asked them about their goals this year. And so that's already going to set you apart in their mind of like, that was actually like a really genuine, great conversation that I had with Shoney. And like, he knows what I'm chasing. And here's what you want to do. As much as possible, capitalize on that. Meaning if there is a way for you to help them with their goal, do. There's been plenty of my individuals where maybe it's a relationship where I'm like, oh, I know this person's in this industry, I know this person's in this field. And I just put them in a group text and said, hey, I think you guys should know each other. And those individuals now are friends or they're working together in some facet. And so if you can help them with the goal, do it. There's a book that you come across, maybe it's a health related goal. You read a really great book around health or watch a YouTube video around it. You're like, text them and 3 months down the road, hey, I know you're working towards that marathon. I came across this mindset YouTube video earlier in my studies and it really reminded me of your goal that you're chasing. So hope you're still on track. Hope everything's going great. Very simple, right? But it's going to set you worlds apart from their current friends group and any real estate agent that's interacting with them for sure. Cool. We got one more question, if any, and then if not, we'll wrap up.
How important is it to, when you first helped me to do an open house, I had this awesome little flyer that, had my face on it and all these graphics and everything. I've found that being a single mom and all my responsibilities, it's hard for me to, I don't really know how to do that yet. So how important is it that I do that versus, posting a picture of me at the open house saying, I'm here and here's the MLS or, things like that.
So what I'll say is activity is what's most important. So the more active you can be, like I would, if I were starting all over again, I would eat up as many open houses as possible. Like that is actually one of the best lead generation strategies in this kind of market.
Yeah.
The people that are coming through those open houses are motivated, right? Some of them are looky-loos, right? They're just checking it out. But anybody else who's coming through, like those are the hottest potential leads you can grab right now that are not in your sphere. And so I would go read the playbook on that. That goes into detail on how to effectively utilize the open houses and market for them. But yeah, definitely posting that on social media is totally fine. Like stories, that's where it's better. This is just personal reference, like don't take my stuff for gold, but I personally am not going to post my open house personally on my feed. I'm going to do it on my story and say, hey, come check this house out, stuff like that. It's going to disappear in 24 hours, but people who see that might be 300, 400 people once that will see that. Yeah, but yeah, definitely go and revert back to the open house playbook. The other thing is everybody in our WhatsApp community?
No.
Okay. So let me see if there's, I don't know if they do a QR code for this. Let's see.
I don't know what's wrong with my phone, but all of a sudden I can't pick up QR codes, so there must be a setting.
There might be. Okay, I'm going to we're gonna go on a little field trip really quick because there's two different things I want you guys to tap into. But when you join this community, you'll find there are multiple channels or chats. So there's general chat, which is just anything in the brokerage, but there's one that's called opportunities. And this is where you'll find people say, This was just yesterday. Hey, anyone want to do open house in Payson? This one, I have an open house opportunity in Orem. And whoever just jumps on the fastest can take those opportunities. So I highly recommend being in that group. And then you have our solo agents have a club, so they let you know when they're doing their masterminds. That's a great group to be a part of as well. And then productivity coaching, all of you should be in this one as you're launching your career. And then ask the brokers, is you can just ask a random question we have 30 associate brokers here. So we have Dean, obviously he's the principal broker, but there's 30 other people who have their broker's license. So most of your questions, if you want speed, this is a great place to put your question, because it's not just Dean that can answer, it's any of the brokers that can answer that question. Cool. And you can also join that by going to the hot links. So that WhatsApp chat, if you don't have the QR working, just go click on our hot links, WhatsApp chat, and then it will bring you into the group.
Okay. One last question. How important is it for me to be doing open houses? I know it's for lead generating really, and also, I mean, I'm kind of using it right now periodically to just show that I'm active in real estate on social media, but I have too many leads to follow up with. I'm swamped with leads just from my social life. So I feel like when I do an open house, I get way too overwhelmed and I can't follow up with the leads.
Yeah, so I would say just personally know where you're at, right, with that. Like if you're getting overwhelmed on the lead follow-up process,
Yeah.
put a pause on any kind of further lead generation and do lead follow-up, because that's also where people drop the ball, is they don't follow up consistently enough with the leads that they have, and you end up, 3 months down the road seeing somebody post, "It's out of my new home," and like, dang it. So yeah, follow-up is definitely the bread and butter. That's where the deals are won.
Actually, this is totally off topic, but someone. The people that are interested, at what point would you suggest implementing the buyer agreement?
So so whenever I have somebody, let's go to that first question, like how's the market? And it evolves into, I'm looking potentially at buying a new home, and here's my timeline. Great. Well, you know what? I'd love to actually put some data together, and I'd love to sit down with you for 35-40 minutes sometime this week and actually go through what is really happening in the market, but then also get clear about what's important to you guys in this next home, and just be really a guide and a resource in the process. Does that sound good? What I'm doing is setting an appointment, right? And in that appointment is where I'm gonna come equipped. You all have access to, we've built buyer presentations, listing presentations for you. Let's just pull one up for an example. Actually, let me pull up mine. We have templates where you just change your name, headshot on there, and it's good to go. But
That's what I need to do.
let me see if I can find. So this is like Amy's example, and this is just a template. So you literally just go swap out what your sales experience is, stuff like that. And then the core foundation of the template, you can just keep the same because it's just KW stuff. But I go through a process with a client and just find out what's important to them. And this helps me to stay on track, to know how to guide the conversation. But this is where after going through this is where I'm gonna sign the BPA. So what I say, this is the script that I use is, Stacey, the state of Utah requires that before I can actually negotiate on your behalf and represent you in this process, that we have to have something called a buyer broker agreement in place. And so what that goes through, and then I outline the buyer broker agreement. And so I just kind of highlight the paragraphs. I don't read it word for word. I just say what the fiduciary responsibility means is this. And I go through and explain it in terms that they would understand. And I say, so I'd love to be the agent that helps work you through this process. And do you have any other questions before we move forward? And then I'll have them sign it. But I don't say contract or you need to sign this, you're locked in, that kind of stuff. It's just, hey, before I can successfully negotiate on your behalf, the state of Utah requires that I have this document in place to represent you. And it's called the buyer broker agreement. Or same thing with the listing agreement, same thing is just you swap out, before I can help represent you in the process of marketing your home. We need to have this listing agreement in place, and this allows me to be a fiduciary a fiduciary support for you guys in this process. Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Please be here for Friday. Carl's session's gonna be great. Yeah. Awesome. Have a good one.